Hello and welcome to Raising the Bar, a podcast production of DWLA, produced and hosted by the 2022 leadership class, as a place to democratize, equalize, and share the information to inspire a new generation of female lawyers. For our first episode, Gladys and Kemi will be tackling law school as a first-generation student as they interview Laura Baez Torres.
Hello, my name is Gladys Marcos, and I am a 3L from SMU Law.
And I am Kemi Raufu, and I'm a 2L from SMU Law.
Today we will be co-hosting the first episode. Our guest speaker is Laura Baez Torres. Laura is a graduate from SMU Law and is a sole practitioner with a focus on immigration here in Dallas, Texas. Today, our topic is navigating law school as a first generation. So before we begin, I want to make a note that for our discussion today, first gen can mean being the first in your family to graduate college or being the first in your family to graduate law school. So our first question for you today, Laura, is how did you deal with imposter syndrome as a first-generation student in law school?
Thank you, Gladys. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Thank you, Kemi. I think this is a great way for students to hear a perspective. And so I just want to thank you because I'm honored that you would think of me. And that goes back to imposter syndrome. You know, sometimes you think, why me? And I had to give myself a little pep talk before I came in here about why not me, right? And so that's imposter syndrome is something that you will deal with in law school, at an undergraduate level, and even in your careers. But it's what you do with that feeling that really is going to make a difference and is really going to make you stand out. So in law school, it was definitely there because I felt like, I was the first generation law student on top of being a person of color. So I felt like I had that, dealing with that as well as being a woman. And I was also pregnant in law school twice. So that also made me believe a certain way about myself that I really had to dig myself out of those feelings. And I had to really recognize that the privilege that I walk in. So I think number one, something that I really had to do was just recognizing the privilege that I have to sit in this classroom, to sit next to all these wonderful people. You are your ancestors' wildest dreams. And the more that you recognize that and the more that you own it, I think the better you feel and the better you will go forward, recognizing that privilege. And then after you recognize that privilege, just humbling yourself to seeking out any kind of help that you need, seeking out mentors. I would have lunches with other attorneys because that's something that I wanted to, kind of get a feel for what it was like to be an attorney. And so you have to really humble yourself to other people in that profession. And I do it now as well in my own career as a business owner. There's a lot of stuff that I don't really know about or how to navigate because law school, teaches you how to be a lawyer, not necessarily how to be a business owner. And so I seek out mentors even now. But imposter syndrome is always going to be there. So just look for ways to recognize it and then attack it with just things that make you confident in yourself. Just, on your hand, count the things that make you awesome. And I have had the privilege of, I married. And so my husband, Jake, he's always been my biggest cheerleader. And he's almost had to teach me how to be my own cheerleader, because he's so good at cheering me on. But there have been situations where, he's not in the same class, so I have to cheer myself on. And so having him there has always been super amazing. But then also learning how to be my own cheerleader has helped me through building the confidence to just walk into that classroom, take that first step, going into that interview, speaking to that partner, taking that lunch, seeking out that lunch. Give yourself that confidence right before you do it so that you feel like you belong, because you belong. And that's something that once you internalize that and recognize it, then it will make your steps just more confident. So I think that's really important.
I think you mentioned being a cheerleader for yourself, and I think that's super important and something that you said you're working on. But was there any point where you sat down with yourself and you were like, yeah, I can do this? Because for me, my first semester, I got my grades and I was like, okay, not as bad as I thought, could be better. But then I sat down and I was like around all these people that went to Ivy Leagues. I have parents that are lawyers. My parents graduated middle school and high school, and I still did better than a lot of these people. So I was like, okay, I can do this. So that was my moment where I still struggle with it, but now I'm like, this is the space where I belong and I can do it as well. Did you have a moment where you were just like flipping the switch?
Yeah, and I think I recognized that I could do it after having my daughter my first year. So my daughter was born in September of my 1L year. So, she was born a couple weeks into the first day of school of being a 1L. And after that first semester of having a newborn, and my husband was also in law school. So we were both 1Ls and with this newborn, and just getting through that first semester alive and celebrating the wins, celebrating passing. I no longer required an A in my class. I had changed what was going to be enough for me to, move forward. And celebrating getting through it made me recognize if I can get through my 1L year with a newborn and my husband, we can do anything. So I think that was really powerful, but it didn't make it any easier the next semester. But that was a confirmation of what is possible if you have, your own beliefs and if you have your family to support you. But sometimes you have to be the one to dig yourself out of those frustrations and those, bad feelings of like, oh no, I can't do this. You got to be the one to tell yourself, you can do this, you will do this. Because sometimes I have to think about like, man, my grandmother didn't have any opportunities. What would have she been able to? And that just makes me want to work harder because I think of my grandmother and I think of like, who knows what she could have become? And then I think about my father and how talented he is. He could have been an engineer, but he has a 3rd grade education because he had to, provide for his family. But because of them, I can do what I can do. And so it is the least that I can do is get up and go kick butt every day, because they didn't have the opportunities that I have. And so you have to take advantage of them. So you just got to keep reminding yourself of like, man, like look at all the things that I've done. So I think that that's a really good thing that you're doing and that you practice. And, it's going to be something that definitely you need to do as a student. And then once you become an associate, and then maybe even if you become a business owner, there will be challenges. But as long as you can give yourself that confidence and talk yourself through some of those things, you can do anything.
And to even pick up on the mentoring stuff, like that is really important because when I got into law school, I didn't have anybody. And I remember like less than a week into law school, like I was trying to park in Daniel's garage and I didn't find a place to park and I just broke down.
Yeah. That garage will do it.
Yeah.
And I remember I just reached out to my mentor like ASAP and she was just like, just take a mental break for like a day and then come back refreshed. So just having someone that has been there because you don't know anyone that has been there. I feel like that's really important.
Yes, and it's something that I did as an undergraduate student, being a first generation student. I sought out and I was a part of organization. So I think this is really amazing what you two are doing, and building a first generation organization is just transformational. The lives that you are going to touch as, the other students that you're going to impact is so amazing. We didn't have that as when we were in law school, but, that's something that we could have created, but we just didn't do it. And so I applaud you both for, working towards helping each other, because I think mentoring each other is also something that is possible. Like if maybe you're too shy to ask another attorney for lunch, seek each other out. And because you would be surprised at how much you share in common in the feelings, just being a first generation student, even if you come from different backgrounds, just, having that in common, you guys can, help yourself get through it.
I think that's a good segue to the next question that we have.
So the next question is, how were you able to like establish yourself and find resources, including like creating your own network?
Yeah, that's really important. Having a support system in law school and in your career is always going to help you get through, those tough times. I was an evening student at SMU, and so I worked during the day and then went to school at night. So I felt like my network were my colleagues, the other students, and also my colleagues during the day who would, cheer me on and encourage me to keep going. But in the evenings, everyone there had a full-time job during the day and went to school at night. So we were all professionals, and it was just great to be surrounded by people that this may not have been the first. They may not be the first in their family to go to college, but they were sharing a similar experience, which was working full-time and then going to school at night. We had a 4-year program at SMU at that time with the evening program. And so my colleagues were really my network. And they continue to be my network now that I've graduated. We were a very small cohort. We had basically the same classes, and it was just great to grow up in law school with that network. I tried to be a part of organizations like the Hispanic Law Student Association was really important to me because identifying as a Latina was very important. It is very important to me. And so this organization helped me be more, just be happy in my own skin and like network with other attorneys that looked like me, that made me feel like this is possible. I can do this. There are Latina immigration attorneys. There are Latina, family attorneys, whatever it is that you want to do, they help you kind of network with other people so that you can see yourself there in the future. So I think that was my network, and also my family, my kids and my husband and my parents were a big part of my network. But I would encourage everyone in law school to find an organization that they can connect with and they can, spend time with people talking about law school and then not talking about law school, but a lot of your friendships will evolve from some of these organizations, and you'll have people to help you out when you're kind of, struggling.
I think definitely having those organizations has been the thing that has kept me going for the most part, because especially my first year I was all online, and so that second year I was like, where's my student network? I haven't created it. And so Hispanic Law Student Association, but then also we started the First Generation Law Student Association because I realized, I'm not the only one here with these problems. It feels like I am sometimes, but there was a lot of people that also shared that. And so just being able and to be vulnerable with people sometimes. Obviously, you're not going to spill the beans right then and there, but just telling them like, yeah, this is a problem that I have. And then sometimes you'll find that they share that too. And like you said, we have a lot more similarities than differences.
Yeah, I need to do a better job myself because I feel like one I was just so focused on like grades and everything that I didn't make enough time for like joining organizations and stuff. So definitely my 2L, definitely.
Yeah, 2L. Once you have 1L under the belt, I think it gets better.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, and it's okay to have a goal, right? Like my goal for my first year is to do really well so that I can get certain internships or get this interview or do this and that. But I do think camaraderie is going to help get through law school because you do share a lot of stuff in common.
And as first gens, I think it can be intimidating to seek out a network of professionals because they are professionals. And so having a network of people that are in your same level, quote unquote, is a lot easier. And you never know, like years in advance, like they'll be your network again. They'll be there for you.
They will always be there. Your law school friends will always be there. And to this day, I keep in touch with a lot of them. Some of them seek me out for counsel, like they have an immigration question they want to run by me. And I love talking to them and reconnecting. And because you went through something so special, like you did it. It's like we did law school together, and that is a very tough situation to be in. And so you already have some form of feeling towards that person of like appreciation. And so you will have that always with that person and with everyone in your class, So it's great. And I think that's a good point, building your network close, as your own peers. But I would encourage you guys to seek out professionals, even if it's just like a lunch to like pick their brain, or sometimes you just need some encouragement because you may be dealing with a situation that, maybe you failed a class and you need some perspective on like, what really does that mean? Like, does that define me? Things like that. And I think the older you get, the more seasoned in your career you are, but also in life. And you recognize, we can give you guidance as far as to like what that's going to look like or how that would affect you in your future. And that's done via organizations, because like HALSA and like First Gen, the organization can help create happy hours or lunches, like you guys asked me to come and talk during a lunch. I thought that was really great. And that was a great way for people to get some insight into immigration law and stuff like that. So I think you can do that through these organizations on campus.
You mentioned that your family was part of your network emotionally. So for our next question, it's how do you bring your family along with you into your law school journey when they might not understand what law school really is? Especially, I think for me, there's that language barrier as well, where I'm learning these legal terms for the first time, so I don't know what they translate into Spanish at all. Mm-hmm. So explaining to my parents what a brief was when I was trying to figure out what a brief was and how important it was at that time. Like, it was hard for me to have that connection and get that message across.
That was probably one of my favorite questions, because as I get older, I recognize, because when you're in the middle of it, it's hard and it's frustrating sometimes, and it makes you feel alone sometimes. But the older I get, the more I recognize the importance that my family was to me in law school. So like I couldn't have done it without them, because while my dad and my mom with elementary educations, while they could not have told me, these are the things you need to focus on in law school, and these are the organizations you need to join, and this is who you need to talk to as a mentor, they provided so much more that is invaluable. You cannot put a price to the values and the work ethic that your parents have given you and continue to provide, right? Seeing your parents work so hard, like my dad, he works in construction, and my mom works in the cafeteria at a school. Just seeing how hard they work and how well they do their job. Mm-hmm. Like my mom gets random inspections at the school, and ever since she took over as manager there, she's always getting 100%, and she is so proud of that. And I am so proud of that, because it doesn't matter what they're doing, whether they're building a bridge, whether they're cleaning the kitchen, they are trying their absolute best. Mm-hmm. And that work ethic is something that they've instilled in me, and that transcended into my law school. The desire to move forward, the desire to get ahead in life was instilled in me. And as a result, I got through law school. I don't think I could have gone through law school without the values that my parents provided for me as a kid, mm-hmm. in high school and college. And they were still doing that for me in law school. And so I may not have been able to celebrate certain things with them because maybe they didn't understand it, but I tried to explain it in a way that made a little bit of sense. And my husband is really good at that. So he was always involving his family, because he's also first generation. In my family, he was really good at explaining things. And so he made me recognize that it is important to explain to them, even if it's just on a very basic level. Same that with our other friends, right, that may not be in law school. They may also not understand, mm-hmm. but just telling them in a general way why this is important and why you have to maybe not come home for that month or that mm-hmm. week, and maybe distance yourself from certain times. That is still going to be important, so that they know that you are okay, mm-hmm. and that this is, a season of your life. But go back to those values that they instilled in you, and that will get you through anything. Mm-hmm. And I attribute my successes always to my parents, mm-hmm. because they've given me something that I hope to give my children, which mm-hmm. is grit and work ethic and love of learning. They've instilled all that in me. And without that, I couldn't have done what I've done today. And so even now as a business owner, I still attribute my success to them, and that's a big part of it. And then the other part is the other part of my family has been my husband and my children. They are my motivation of why I want to get through, my 1L year, why I wanted to get through my 2L year, why I wanted to graduate. I failed the bar, and that was one of the hardest blows. Mm-hmm. It's just a test when you think about it, but I almost let it define who I was. And I had to have some family intervention, like my husband and my children tell me that it was something that I could overcome if I just did it again to get me through it. So family is there when your own confidence and your own imposter syndrome has taken over. That's when you seek out your family so they can get right in there and talk you up and show you and tell you how amazing you are and how you will get through this. So I think family and I was lucky, I still have my parents and I have my husband and I have my 2 babies. I have Angelique and Esteban. But when I say family, you may be in Dallas, but you may not have your family in Dallas. You may have friends. And so that's your family. So I would say to any law student, seek out that support system, that family of yours, whether it is your friends, whether it's your colleagues at work, anyone that will help build that confidence up so that you can, move forward. I think it's going to be important. So your Diaz and your Dios, everybody.
So for me, my family, they've been supportive for the most part, but I've had moments where there's like complete lack of understanding. Like, I remember this time I was like, I'm really busy. And she was like, well, why can't I come see you regardless? And it's like, I'm trying to explain to you that I'm really busy. And I've had moments like when I'm like studying, like really studying. Because like first semester exams are and like, she doesn't really get it. So how do you like navigate through that?
It's almost like having, what I would say to you is, so where is this mom?
Yeah.
Where is she? Where is
She's
mom?
in Houston.
She's in Houston. Okay, I'm a mom now, so I understand her. She loves you so much. That's the reason why she wants to see you and she wants to make sure you're okay. When you recognize that there's going to be a time that is going to be difficult and you're not going to be able to see her and you may have to distance yourself. And it's sometimes like you may not even know you're in that time, but maybe you're in the middle of it. I would challenge you to take a moment, maybe drive to Houston or give her a phone call and sit her down and just be real with her. And I know that you're talking to her and it sounds like you're having those conversations with her, but you may have to take her to lunch. Do it in a situation where, you guys are enjoying each other's company, but you're also letting her in, maybe bring the laptop and show her like, look, Mom, this professor expects me to write this by this date, Mom. So maybe let her in a little bit more onto like what you're really having to deal with, because you may think that she has no idea, right? Because as first generation students, our parents have not done this, maybe no one in our family, but she may need to know a little bit more into like reality, like, look, Mom, read it to her, read what you have to do, or explain what it is. You may have to explain it a little bit more than maybe some parents will take more general explanations and just be like, oh, all right, she's busy. Your mom may need a little bit more, she may want you to show her something. And I think maybe that would help. Or, taking that drive, making that sacrifice to take that drive, to go to Houston or FaceTime her, something where she can see that you are okay would make a mom's heart happy. Because
I'm like, is FaceTime not enough? Like,
she's gonna see you through this. She's gonna be there when you graduate, and so I would say take some time to just give her that whatever she needs, or set boundaries. If she's like, I just want to come see you, then just say like, all right, Mom, come see me. But can you respect that? I have to work from 9 to 5, and work can mean study, and then we can hang out after that, or I can see you at lunch every day. Setting boundaries with parents, I think, is okay, and we would totally prefer that than just a flat out, I can't see you. Just let her come down and, just tell her, yeah, you can come down, but you're going to see me study. Like, do you really want to do that, Mom? So your options are go visit her, give her what she wants. If she wants to see her daughter, she wants to know that you're okay. Or if she's, really wanting to come see you, have her come see you. But tell her, like, hey, Mom, you can come see me, but I can't hang out with you all day. Like, I have to do this. But you can watch me do it.
Right.
Like, you can do that with me. Or let me work from this time to this time, and then we'll hang out. Because that's something that I have to do with my kids. I have to set certain what I was trying to do is I was trying to work and take care of my kids at the same time. And I recognized very early that doesn't work. And so when I'm working, I'm 100%, I'm all in, I'm working. And when I pick up my kids, I'm 100% all in with my kids. And so setting a schedule of like who will be your focus is important so that you can enjoy your time with your mom and you're not thinking about that paper that you have to write or getting behind on your bar schedule, so that your time with her can be really enjoyable. You really have to set some boundaries and set some parameters, or just set some rules to your own self, Like I'm going to work really hard, I'm going to grind during this time so that when mom comes, I will be ready.
Definitely conversations.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because at least I know with the Mexican community, we're super family oriented and they want to see you. They want to like know what's going on, but it helps to be further away from them. Where I'm like, Mom, I can't. I'm busy. I can't come over this weekend. I know there's something going on. But they also see that I'm working really hard because they know I want to be with them too.
Yeah.
And so I think they see that this is a sacrifice for me and for them as well.
And I think communication is important for both of you. And so I will have been married for 10 years in October. And I think that's what's one of the reasons that we've been married for so long, is just maintaining communication and recognizing when you are stressed out, when you don't have time, when you are having certain feelings. And I think family goes the same way, like as long as you can tell your mom, like, hey mom, I love you so much, but I'm stressed out about, this and that, or I can't come to that baptism because I already set up study date with this other person. I think as long as you can communicate and you're intentional about your communication and you're vulnerable, then everyone will appreciate it. Whether that's, a boyfriend you can't spend time with, right? Or your mom that you can't spend time with, anyone in your family that you just, you didn't go to that party because you just couldn't or whatever. As long as I think you are very transparent about what you really are doing, that will be important. Because maybe they're feeling like, oh, but she just doesn't want to come anymore because she's a law student or, whatever the reason. So, squash that with them and let them know, be very clear. Like, I love you and I just have this presentation that I have to prepare for. They will appreciate that.
I've noticed the more, like my last year, the more I tell them, the more they're understanding. That makes sense, right? In retrospect. But it's hard sometimes to communicate with everyone. But there's a lot going on, and that's sometimes the last thing you want to do. You're like, I just need to focus on myself.
Yeah. And recognize this is a season that will pass, So you may be missing out on a lot of family functions or certain things with your parents, with your mom, for example. But this too shall pass, and you will graduate, and then you'll be able to, focus a little bit more on some things that you do want to do and have your weekends back, Being an attorney is a different kind of work, right, than law school sometimes. So you will have different challenges, but at least you know that this is just something that's temporary. And then just so you've got to prepare your parents, your spouses, significant others for the bar prep. I think that was
going to be my next question. How do you prepare them for this like monumental thing that's coming up eventually? You
have to be very, very intentional about how you should start prepping them now for next summer. But and then just talk to them about like, hey, there's like a lot of this is just something that I have to do, like I basically have to really focus on studying during this time, and I won't be able to come home, but you can come visit me, or like, again, set boundaries, but be very clear about like why this is important, but recognize if you fail the part, it's okay. But you have to prepare them now for what's coming, just because unless you're an attorney and you've been through that, you have no idea. Like my husband, since I did the evening program, mine was a year longer. So he went through the bar before I did. And I thought I was being super supportive in certain situations. But then when I went through it, I recognized, oh my goodness, it's very demanding. But unless you've been through it, no one will have any idea. So don't fault them for not recognizing it. Because even me as a law student, knowing that, my husband's going to do the bar and knowing that what it entails and thinking I know, right? Like what he really is going to have to go through and like day of the bar, that week of the bar, I thought I knew everything, but it was not true until I went through it the first time, honestly, that I could have then been the best supportive spouse. But I tried when he went to the bar. So don't fault your parents, because it's really an experience that unless you've been through it, no one really knows how to support you. You may not know how to support you, as long as I think the best thing you can do is create a great outline of the calendar, like making sure that you know what you're going to study on every day, doing a bar class if you want to, as well. But it's going to be a learning curve for everybody. So just extend yourself some grace and extend your family some grace.
Definitely making calendars for everyone. I've made like calendars for my parents.
That's
Or
right.
like, here are the dates that I'm doing these things. Don't bother me. Or I'm not available.
Yeah. It's something that that has to get done. And maybe focus, when you're communicating with them, focus on what's going to happen once you finish, right? Like it's like, and then I will be free and then, I will be an attorney. And that's significant. And I think that then they'll be like, okay, this is temporary, and she will be an attorney once she goes through this.
Then the main question, I feel like every law student asks this question. So what is something that you wish you would have known before law school as a first gen?
I think you have to recognize that this is a season. It will get better, right? Like, because you're consumed with deadlines and work, as far as like schoolwork, right? So I wish I would have realized that this season will pass, but when you're in the middle of it, you're kind of thinking, man, this is really difficult. So just recognizing that this is a season would have helped me a lot during law school. I think also taking it as an investment and seeing it that way is also helpful. Seeing it as an investment in yourself, because once you graduate from law school, no one will be able to take away that degree. That degree will open so many doors. And I didn't recognize how many doors it opened until, I was older and I graduated and stuff like that. But seeing it as a daily investment in yourself and how powerful that is would have also helped, I think, during law school. But just recognizing this is something that's going to set you up for success. So it is 100% worth it. And yes, it's going to be an investment. It may be a financial investment that you're taking on, and that's okay. And that's okay. And it may be an emotional investment, but it's going to be all kinds of investments, ultimately leading you to be the best attorney you can be. So I would encourage anyone and everyone to go to law school. I think it's just a great way to learn about our legal system and just learning how to think in a different way that prepares you for any kind of a challenge in the real world, I feel like. So I encourage everyone that I see to go to law school, and I also tell them it's going to be a financial investment potentially, right? Unless you have parents that can help pay for that, or a spouse, things like that. But it is going to be 100% worth it. But ultimately, you will have to make that decision. But I do encourage everyone that I meet is just to keep going, si se puede, and that investment will pay off. And I'm seeing that, and you will reap those rewards, as you get older and as you go into your career, just how different of a person you are once you get out of law school. And it will be great.
I definitely want to be able to be past that point where I'm like, this was worth it.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm still in the thick of it, right? After 1L, you feel a little better, but then you still have 2 more years left. So I'm excited to be done, but also excited to say, like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in the same boat. I can't wait to be done. And I have 2 years left, but I can't wait.
Yeah, I feel like I've had good experiences, and I'm thankful for them. It's just I think I'm ready to just go out there and do what I came in here to. Why I started this, really.
Yeah. Just watch it all pay off.
Yeah. And, just going back to recognizing, the privilege that you walk in, I think will help you humble yourself to like where you are and try to enjoy it as much as possible. That's something that I'm struggling with, like as a business owner. I just launched my law firm last year, and I'm just like, I just want to be like at this point in my law firm, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm at the beginning of my law firm, and I just want to get through it. But what I have to recognize is that I should enjoy this, and I should take time to lay a foundation that will set me up to be that law firm that I want to be. Because I seek out mentors, and I'm like, how did you do it? I'll go to lunch with them, and I see how successful law firms can be. And I want to be able to do that because I want to be able to help a lot of immigrants, get the American dream. But I have to kind of wait my turn, but also make sure that every single day I'm laying a foundation to where I do get to do that. I do get to reap those benefits. So it's just kind of like on a daily basis, having to step back and being grateful. Like I have all the flexibility that I want. I get to help all the clients that I want. Just being grateful for the things that you have going on, because I do miss law school sometimes. I know I do. Yeah, I do. I miss learning about new things, because once you go into your career, you'll be focused on one particular area of the law, potentially, maybe a couple. But in law school, you really get exposed to a lot of interesting cases all around, in all different kinds of law. But when you leave there, you really kind of have to specialize. And so I miss learning. I miss my colleagues and being in a group of people that's, we're working full time, and, you're going to school and you're all professionals. I miss the camaraderie that comes with law school. I miss the student organizations, the free lunch, It's definitely something that I will always be grateful for, that I had the ability to do that. But I do miss it sometimes. So I know it's hard to say it while you're in the middle. It's harder said than done. But I know I have to do that right now to myself, just recognizing you're at the start of something, and you want to be at the end of something. But just lay that foundation so that you can be at the end exactly how you want that to be. Whether your goal is to be valedictorian of your class, whether it is to get on law review, whether it's just to graduate, look at that goal, and on a daily basis, just work towards it as best as possible.
I think I will say there's been moments where I realize how super privileged I am. Like, yeah, I'm first gen, and yes, I have all these unique struggles, but I'm here, right? A lot of people have worked hard so I could be here. And I think that's what keeps me going a lot of times.
Amen, sister. You are your ancestors' wildest dreams, and you stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Like, we owe it to our families. We owe it to our heritage. We owe it to SMU, right? To just try our very best on a daily basis.
And the last question that I have here today is, what is something that you wish you would have known before law school as a first gen? Or really, is there any unique hurdles that you face that you just feel like we should talk about, and they could be learning points for other first gens?
So I did everything they said don't do, right? Like they said, don't be in a relationship. I was married. Keep family away. I had kids. There's no way I could do that. I was pregnant in law school, during law school twice. So despite the odds and despite what you're supposed to do, don't be afraid to still do it despite not fitting that mold, right? Like, I didn't have a lot of time to study as well. I didn't have all day to study. My study time was like weekends, before like my 6 o'clock, and then after class. And so although there is this idea of what a law student should do and should look like and should be like, and that's okay to not fit that mold, because those challenges will really be who you are, right? Like that defines who you are and the attorney that you will become. So don't let what the stereotype of a law student should do define what you do, because you got to make it work how you can. Like how you got to work around your own situation and your own circumstances and your own abilities. You have to get through that facade, and you can do anything.
And I think that mold wasn't created for or meant for people like us, first gens, women, people of color.
Exactly.
So redefining it and just showing people that, I can do it.
Yes. Something my husband says is like that I always walk to the beat of my own drum. I think that's how he says it. Sometimes things get lost in translation, like I always blame English being my second language. But he says, like, you've always walked to the beat of your own drum. And that is so true. Any situation that I'm placed in, it may be the first, but I just go with it. I just go with it, and you learn. You learn from that, whether you went to a very fancy restaurant and you were not dressed for that very fancy restaurant, that's okay. You just do it, and then you'll learn to never go to that fancy restaurant unless you are dressed for that fancy restaurant.
And then, like, along the way, you could be, like, inspiring others to do the same. So they're taking other people along, too.
Yeah. So I'm so excited that you guys have this network and this community, because there are some students that may not have their family really close, or they may not have a family that they can seek out or whatever, but having a network with your colleagues and your friends and each other is going to be very, very important, as well as, your other mentors. But you each other are good enough for each other to get through it together. So this is a really great thing that you're doing and that you've created, and I just applaud you for that, because it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of grit, and it takes a lot of passion and love for who you are and what you want to share and how you want to change the world for other people, other law students. You're really setting a path for other people to be successful. So good job.
So just want to thank you for joining us in our wonderful first episode of On the Record, Stories and Lessons from Women in Law. We appreciate your words of wisdom. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode, and stay tuned for more episodes on Navigating Law School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.